is Friday the 15th, day after Valentine's Day. Oh, definitely had a very nice dinner last night. I hope everybody's had a little time to spend with their loved one or anybody. So, it's been an interesting week around here at Totally Guitars. There's a really cool thing going on the forum that I want to address a little bit later. Actually, kind of two things. Well, no, this one wasn't part of the forum, but I'm going to talk a little bit about first guitars and give you a little bit of my personal guitar history. But first, got to do a quick rundown of what we did this week. Let me grab my capo. Oh, because both songs were capoed. Can you believe that? And I think in the lesson on this, I didn't really talk about doing the whole thing with a pick. We talked about doing it finger picking. And just the simple two-string version. Anyway, I've had a good time doing Tracy's songs. There are a few more coming up, and I will give you some hints. Most of them are pretty easy. So, anyway. And what was the other one? Oh, Nick. I'm sure a lot of you are not familiar with that tune. Time has told me. I'm on a Nick kick, guys. I watched a great video. Oh, Nick Drake, in case you're not sure who I'm talking about. You got to check it out if you're more interested in the life and times of Nick Drake. It was called Under Review. One of my students loaned it to me, although I had it already on order from Netflix, and he walked in one day and said, "Hey, since you were working on Nick Drake, why don't you check this one out?" So great, great people talking about him. Ashley Hutchings, John Renborn. It's good to see John on video again. And Ralph McTell talks about him too. So anyhow, and some other members of Fairport. Dave Maddox is in there too. So if you're more interested in Nick, track down the DVD, Nick Drake Under Review. Good little rundown of his songs, and from a lot of people, insiders that knew him pretty well. Let's see, the other things we had going on this week were a couple of student reviews. Of course, Tell Me Why. And then Stray Cat Strut, one of my all-time favorite tunes too. So I hope you guys got a chance to check out my comments on the uploads from Mark and John. And and then we pursued a little bit more into Shady Grove with Kevin working on his fast strumming. And one of his assignments was to work on things like Teach Your Children and songs that have picking. That sort of led me to a discussion with him and a few other students about sort of essential songs for picking. And everybody has got to play this. Get the hang of hitting bass notes. This. To really establish a solid right hand, and then branch into this one, of course. So, essential songs in everybody's playing. Maybe even this. Got an 8th grader right now working on this. He's getting the hang of it too. So, I'm sure those songs, this is not going to be a guessing game. Everybody's got to know those ones I'm playing. And then, of course, you got to work on this too. Okay, that's it for today's essential songs that everybody should have in their bag of tricks. Let's see, what else did I have to talk about? There was something else really important. No, that was it. I'm ready to get on a little bit of my guitar history. And I started playing guitar when I was 8 or 9. I still haven't been able to pin it down. I think I was probably 9, but probably 1965 or so. And wanted to take banjo lessons, but the guitar teacher said, no, you have to learn to play the guitar first. And so I did, I guess. And now, if I can play the banjo, it's It's a lot like playing the guitar, just doing finger picking with a little different sound. But he had a line of cheap guitars made in Mexico. Probably cost $30 or $40 for my first guitar, and had that one for about 5 years. I was looking around. I think I have it around here someplace, but I couldn't track it down this morning as I was trying to piece together this in kind of a hurry. And but I do remember something really bad that happened to that guitar. Somehow my sister and I got in a big yelling and shouting and maybe even punching fight. I'm not sure. We were little. And she got mad enough to throw the guitar at me down the hallway. And it ended up with a big crack down in here. It still has it. Someday I will track that guitar down and show you guys. But it was unplayable action, nylon strings. It was just a piece of junk. And a couple of years later, I was starting to teach guitar. I was now in 8th grade, and I decided it was time to get a nice guitar. And I called my old teacher, Bill Monday, and said, Bill, I need a guitar. I've been eyeing this really cool Yamaha from down at the local music store, an FG 300 maybe, or 200. It was one of those two. It was $200 though. That's what I remember. It was $200, and it was like, that was a fortune for me. We're talking 1970 now. And he said, hey, you know what? There's a new line of guitars out that are better than those by this guy named Yari, and made in Japan. And this is it. He talked me into this. It was $30 more, and it wasn't the name brand. I'm so glad I got this guitar on Bill's advice. This is essentially a all solid mahogany OM size guitar with a great feeling kind of triangular neck. You can see it's seen better days. Most of these scratches were put on relatively recently by my son when he went through his punk phase when he was about 16 or 17. But it still has great sound. Anyway, we did modify it and put some heavier tuners on it. My buddy Keith Holland did that many years ago, and it put more mass up here in the headstock and started giving it a really nice sound. So I still dig this out every once in a while. I'm sure I've used it in a couple of lessons, so you've probably seen it if you can't remember which one I did. Anyway, then I had a guitar that I don't have anymore. I'm going to wrap this up kind of quickly, but that guitar, I can't remember what year. It was probably about 1974. And Martin had just come out with this guitar they were touting as a fingerstyle guitar. It was the HD 28. So I got one of the original HD 28s. A year or two later they came out with the D76, which was of course in 1976. But by then I had this HD 28 for a little while. And these two guys kept coming into the music store I was teaching at the time, Union Grove Music. A couple of journeyman guitar builders, Bruce Ross and Richard Hoover. And they were selling these really nice guitars that I'd never heard of, called Santa Cruz guitars. And after a little while, after a year or two of seeing a bunch of their guitars, I kind of saw that, wow, this Martin is just not really cutting it for a fingerstyle guitar, and had them build me this one. This is a maple. It's the model they call an FTC. What it has in it that is really, or what's fascinating about it is it's all maple. Well, the top is spruce, Adirondack or red spruce probably. But it's got a carved back. They carve it into this dish that means there are no braces on the inside, because they start with a piece of wood about 1 inch thick and then turn most of it into shavings and sawdust. But I still like this guitar for a lot of reasons. So I use it in lessons too, as you've probably seen. Talk about. That's song I played back at the beginning kind of came out because one of my students showed up this week. We were talking about chord progressions. This is a kid, ninth grader. So what's that, 14? 14 or 15? And he'd been working on a chord progression. Odd timing and then a really odd series of chords. And I said, well, you know what? That's way too weird, Chris, but let's see if we can connect it and build a song out of it. And we did, but it got me thinking about songs that I'd written, in particular this one that went something like this. It is hard to follow, keeps going to chords and stuff, bass notes that you don't expect. So it doesn't ever resolve. Anyway, I'm not really going any place with this other than letting you know that you don't always have to follow the simple chord progression. But you can get some cool sounds out of doing unusual things. Let me get back to the guitar story, because there was, I forgot, in the middle of this there was a little excursion into electric guitars. And so I think after I'd been playing for about a year or two, managed to talk my mom into picking up this electric guitar. We went out and spent $60 on a little electric guitar and an amp that somebody was selling used, and it was a Fender kind of knockoff, but don't ever remember what happened to that. I probably gave it away. And then a couple years later bought one of those Fender thin lines when they came out with those right around 1970, a little bit later I think, because I was playing it in a band in high school. And that's a guitar I wish I'd had back. It was this maple guitar. The Fender thin lines were the ones that had an F hole, half hollow, and then your other basic Telecaster sound. So that was a pretty cool guitar. Anyhow, so then I had the Santa Cruz guitar, and it was really my only guitar for about, when this was built in 1980, so it's a little over 30 years old. It was actually 82. And this is all I had for about 20 years till I ran into the guitar that you mostly see me with. Is that safe? And that's, of course, this. The Ed Claxton guitar. So I haven't had I know a lot of people that have had like 80 different guitars. I think I could probably count them on two hands. Oh no, there's the Hawaiian guitar too. And then there's Papa's guitar. Well, I sort of inherited that one. Well, anyway. Okay, that's it for this week. What's coming up next week? A couple of another cool surprises. This was another great songwriter that I have nearly totally neglected for our whole career here at Totally Guitars. So, a couple songs that are requested on the recommend a lesson list. They will, at least one of them will be showing up next week. So I'll let the guessing begin as far as who that has been nearly neglected deserves to have more stuff here. I'm sure you're going to find there'll be a lot of answers to this one. Okay, I have got to get out of here because I got to get a couple more lessons shot that I'm really excited about, ones I'm working on right now. And glad everybody enjoyed the Nick Drake stuff. There is more on the horizon, by the way, of Nick's. So, okay, I will be back next week. Hope everybody has a good weekend and get some guitar playing in and enjoys the stuff that we're coming out with, and especially the stuff that is on the horizon. See you later.